Do you mind if I live stream and record?
It's fine.
You cool with that? Thank you.
I've never been asked that before, but...
You've never been asked? Wow. You mean like on this campus or just
No, in
ever?
general.
Okay. What's your first name?
Ellen.
I'm Anthony.
Pleasure.
It's mine. What is your first name? Ellen, and it's E-L-L-E-N?
Yeah, I like the show.
Okay, yeah. Do you, well, what I'm doing is just chatting with anybody that stops by for 5 minutes to see if they hold any deeply held spiritual or supernatural beliefs. And that can range from anything.
I'm guessing anything from being
ghosts to gods to karma.
To gods and creatures.
Creatures, sure.
Well, I'm taking a class on classical mythology.
You're taking a class on mythology?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think any of the creatures that you're learning about existed at any point in time?
It's hard to say because it is part of our past and we're not living in the past.
Yeah.
So we can't really say, oh, well, this actually existed because of this. We're just learning about it. And I want to say that at some point in time it did exist.
Zeus, for example, you think could have possibly existed?
There's so many stories about everything. From Zeus to Poseidon to Hera, which actually was a man-made god, but it's a whole different story. That it just everything, there's so much information to take in that you're not really sure what does exist and what doesn't exist, in my opinion.
Okay. So when you discover these ancient stories that were written, you find yourself wondering that there might be a chance that they could have existed at some point?
I really do believe that.
Huh.
I'm a Roman Catholic. I was born and raised that there's only one God and the priest knows how to, they interpret the Bible the best they can and all that jazz.
Yeah.
But the more that I learn, the more I realize that there's more to life. And I have a personal relationship with God. Like, it's God and I, that's it. No one else, not my father, not my mother, not my priest, not the bishops. It's just between God and I. And that's how I personally see my religion. I'll go to church a couple of times just to go to church and be like, oh, let me confess my sins and all that jazz. But
do you think that this God that you relate to personally exists because you've been exposed to all these stories?
Yes.
Okay.
As odd as it sounds, I know it's completely like one moment we're talking about mythology, the next moment we're talking about God and religion, but it's all connected. I feel like just because everyone has their own opinion about it, we're all just somehow connected.
If anybody can just write a book or a story about a God, does that automatically make the God instantly true?
No.
What's so special about these texts that make you think that there's a chance that any of them can be true?
They interrelate with other stories, like they overlap. Like Roman and Greek mythology. Roman was one culture and Greek was another culture, but they had overlapping stories about gods. They were different names. For example, Juno. Yeah, Juno was Zeus. Different name, same story.
Oh, I see.
Jove was Hera. Same name, different story.
Are you saying when you discover other books that might reference the same God in some way, maybe even with different names, but it's the same God, that lends more credence to it being true?
I think so.
You know, do you ever read Harry Potter by a chance?
I haven't read it. I've watched it.
You know, I've never either, but it's my understanding that there's multiple books that talk about all these different characters that have all these special powers. Does J.K. Rowling just creating a book instantly make those characters true?
I think in a reader sense it could be true because it's something that doesn't happen every day.
In a reader sense, what about in reality?
It'd be really cool to go to Hogwarts, but in most cases everyone thinks they're mortals? What's the word for it? Muggles.
Oh.
So if you read the books, there's the wizard world, the witches world, and then they have muggles.
Yeah. So these places and people could exist in the reader world just by somebody creating those stories. But what about this real world that we're in right now? Does somebody just making up a story, whether it's Jesus or Allah or Vishnu or Zeus or Poseidon, does an author penning a story about a god make the god exist in this world?
I think that based on how they write it and what they write about, it could be real. It could. It could not be real. It's all in the writer's mind.
what's the process for the God jumping out of the creation of the person's mind and into this reality that we're in? How does it work?
Let's say I was writing a story. Let's just say that happens. I'm writing a story, and I'm creating a boy. And I want to create a boy who falls in love with a girl.
Okay.
But I'm going to take my inspiration from real life people. But in my story, it's a different name. They look different. They act different. But I'm basing them myself off somebody I've seen before. So technically, who I'm creating doesn't really exist, but my muse is somebody who does. Does that make sense?
I think so. Let me ask you this. Do you think you and I could sit down right now and pen a book about a god? Like even on this whiteboard, we just write about a god.
Yeah.
Would it instantly make the god real in this world?
If you use the term God, probably not. If you say someone I met on the street, then yes. Because nowadays, I don't think a lot of people think of gods in mythology, for example, were real. Because it's something that we don't see every day. It's something that we don't experience. And so I think writing about it helps people experience it.
Is this Roman Catholic God that at least started your journey to a god, and now you believe in a god, does the god that you believe in exist because people have written about gods only?
Yeah. I mean, I remember going to church every Sunday and doing the whole Roman Catholic thing where you stand, you kneel, you stand, you kneel, you sit down, you listen. The whole works, getting the wine and the bread, and they would read a verse from the Bible from that section for that day, and then they would translate it to how they see it. And that's when we sit down and listen.
Yeah.
And just over time, it starts to make sense. Now that I'm older, now that I'm thinking for myself, now that I'm connecting the dots per se, I guess, yeah, it could be real.
Do you think, is there a better way to figure out if the God that you believe in is real than to point at written texts that could possibly create the God? How can we really confirm that this God truly exists and it was created because of previous written texts? How could we demonstrate it? How could we illustrate it? How can we confirm that it's true?
Well, when you say illustrate, it makes me think of pictures, and there's a lot in mythology. There's a lot of old pottery paintings of gods, and they're mortal humans that they were messing with at the time.
But we were talking about just creating a story. Why? No, you're
I'm sorry. I don't mean to get off topic.
No, you weren't. But if we were to write a story on this whiteboard and include a picture of the God, would it instantly make the God real?
Maybe to us, yeah. But to anyone who else reads the book, it might take a little more convincing. Everyone's different. And convincing everyone is going to be different.
If we took this whiteboard with our story and picture of the God and erased it, would the God cease to exist?
No, not to the people who created it. It would still exist to you and I if we created it. But
would that God be detectable in any way?
If it was brought up later in other books, if it was brought up in, let's say we had a specific name for that God. Let's, Jonathan. Mm-hmm. It's Jonathan. Let's say that we erase the story and we don't use the name Jonathan anymore. But that name is associated with that one character we created. Let's say we create another book and it's about Jonathan falling in love. I will personally think that Jonathan is still that God, even though he is not in writing or in picture.
I guess what I'm really trying to understand is how simply writing a story about a God and making a picture about a God instantly makes the God true and it makes it exist. How is that possible?
I don't know. I don't have all the answers.
Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Can I give you a card?
Sure.
You can email me if you want to chat some more.
Definitely.
That was really a pleasure.
No problem. Sorry if I went on all different topics.
I loved it. It was great.
Thanks.
See ya. Oh my gosh. I'd really love to hear what you think about that one. That was probably my most unusual encounter that I've ever had. Part of me was wondering if I was being trolled, to be honest. Baffling, thank you. That was a great word to describe it. She's not translating this into reality. Bullshit. We specifically said, would it be true in this reality?
I think it was photographing him, but I thought they were just like photographing.
No, I don't think so. I have to watch it again, but I don't think that was the case. I thought we were very clear that just doing a story about a god and drawing a picture of the god would make the god true in this reality. You really think she was conflating abstract existence with real existence? Yeah, I don't know what she was studying here. It seems like she was focused on talking about fictional characters, not bringing it into reality. Well, you know, I get surprised when I watch these encounters again and I pick up something that I never did before, but my understanding from that conversation was that a god can be true, a fictional mythical god can be true because people wrote about it. I have to say, I think I disagree. No, I should have given her more time. And if you feel that way, you can leave the channel. I don't remember which. I don't know if she was sociology. I thought that was somebody else. Very, very smart people can have unusual beliefs. There's just it's behind the tape is just the regular Under Armour logo. Because she said that it would be true to you who created it. Well, maybe I misunderstood her. It seems she thought existing in imagination equals really existing. I don't know. I don't know. I'm confused now because I thought for sure we would all be on the same page on that one. You didn't see any bloodshot eyes. Ben Carson that's a good one. Yeah, but we talked about specifically this reality. Could we just simply create gods into existence? I think she was trying to say that since it existed in her mind, it existed in reality. You know, I probably could have asked her, could this god actually physically interact with us, and can we see it? Can it move something? Can it impact our reality in any way? And maybe that would have been the defining point. But I can tell you this, I think that video would generate a ton of interest in the comments section of what was really going on. I think she confused true with existence. I disagree, but I'll watch it again, and I value your input for sure. I mean, you got 57 different perspectives going on to mine, and I love getting your feedback. Wow, if that went the way that I thought that it did, it would be my most baffling one. But maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe I can meet her again and we can clarify it. What do you think would be the best question for me to ask her if she came right back down those stairs and said, "Hey Anthony, let's talk just a little bit more"?
Yeah.
What would be the best clarifying question for me to ask her to figure out where she was on that? What would be the best respectful question to ask her? Asking if this fictional God that we created can interact with our world if we believe it to be true. Yeah. Can this fictional God, hey, that can, once we create it on this whiteboard and draw a picture of it and it leaps off the pad, are we able to see it? Can it punch me in the face? Can it cure cancer? What are the limitations of this God? What are the things it can and can't do?